hopefully this time everything go good. A little bit of H2O. Okay, let's get into it. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Baby Bytes Series. As you can probably tell by the title, today I'm going to be talking about my quitiversary. Today is July 28th, 2024. I believe it's been a full year since I quit my job. I got some things to share. This journey has been an interesting one, but I've learned a lot in it, and so I want to share that with you today. So little background about me before we get into all that. Before I quit my job, I was a licensed insurance agent, specifically Medicare sales. So I helped Medicare recipients receive the best plan possible. And as you may or may not know, insurance agents can make a lot of money. It depends, right? But you can make a lot of money doing insurance. I made a lot of money, I'd say, doing insurance. That's the most money I had ever been able to make from any job I've done. Also, historically, I've pretty much hated every job I've ever worked at. I just didn't like any of them. I only like jobs that gave me purpose, that I felt was actually meaningful. Very millennial thing to say, but I mean, that's just what it was. My first job that I actually cared for wasn't even really a job. I did AmeriCorps, NCCC, FEMA Corps edition. We did get paid a little stipend every 2 weeks. I don't know, I forget, but we got paid. I think it was every 2 weeks, and I did meaningful work. I did work I enjoyed. I loved everything about it, but it only lasted for X amount of time. And every job I had before that and after that, I have hated, except for this insurance job that I had. I did insurance for about 2 years, and I liked it at first because, one, you can make a lot of money, duh. But also, it actually is really rewarding to help elderly people, especially, get the best insurance possible. They get messed over a lot, and there's a lot of agents who just don't move with integrity. And that was really one of the first issues I had with my job, is that to be really, really, really good at my job, you often had to compromise your morals, values, and your integrity. And I just wasn't about to do that to make a quick buck. Also, it just didn't make any sense, because in that field, if you are deceptive at all, you can lose money doing that. So it didn't make sense to me either way. So because I would pass up a sale because I didn't want to bend the truth to someone or withhold information, I was a solid 8 out of 10 insurance agent. Could have been a 10 out of 10 if I was willing to move dirty, play dirty, and I just simply wasn't. That kind of started to get to me a little bit, because every person I've worked under has always told me, you're a good agent, you could be great. It's usually because I just didn't fight for sales that just didn't feel right, that just weren't right. Also, it just started to demand a lot of my time. Also, the money started dwindling a bit. So it's like, for as much effort it required for me, it wasn't making sense as far as the dollars go. I found myself questioning if this is something I really wanted to do. So then I started to get to the place where I hated my job. And it took me a long time to get here, because that job specifically is something that God kind of threw me in. I wasn't looking for this opportunity. It literally fell in my lap. And just the way I got licensed and immediately started working. Did not have a job as an insurance agent, and I had worked for 3 agencies, which is kind of unheard of in the industry as far as contracting goes. I knew God had put me in it, and he was with me every step of the way. And I understood a little bit why he put me in it then, but I absolutely understand why he put me in it now, because I learned so much about business, sales, being a businesswoman, and entrepreneurship. Learned a lot there. It was like boot camp a little bit. Kind of my background. And so around the time God started telling me to leave, he didn't really just flat out say it, honestly. That's why it took me so long to leave, because I just wasn't sure if I was hearing correctly. So some of the signs that I had that you may have, if you're going through the same situation, is I just really started to hate my job. Like anxiety attacks. I feel like I was about to cry every time I had to log in and do what I had to do. And I worked from home as well, so I had all the luxuries in the world to continue doing that for years and years and years. But I started to hate it, It was taking away time from my kids, myself, and my dreams, so to speak, everything I wanted to do. I didn't have any energy or time to do anything that required me, because so much of it was going to that. I'm a single parent as well, so I just don't have the help near me. So, my time is important to me. So I started to hate my job, right? And then but I didn't quit, because the last company I worked for are amazing people, and I made really good relationships there. And so instead of firing me because I just didn't care anymore, it was showing in my work. They offered me a different position, right? Something more stable and sustainable, so I thought at the time, but that position actually required even more from me than before. So I was like, I can't do this. So I was really tired and burnt out, and just I couldn't do anything. So I was asking God, like, okay, am I supposed to quit? Am I supposed to not quit? Like, what's going on here? It just was really starting to show in my interactions at work that it's time to go. We had gotten new employees, and they just weren't super respectful of my time and the position I played at work. And it, like, no one could do anything about it. Like, they were getting talked to, I talked to them, and you just continue to kind of disrespect my boundaries. Some racial things happened there too. As far as I know, at the time, I was like the only Black person who worked there. So something happened there racially, which, that's a thing. And so, all these things started to pile up, and I'm just like, God, are you trying to tell me to leave, or is this just, He didn't flat out say yes or no. But what he did do is he sent me a video. God confirms a lot of things to me via videos on YouTube from other believers. I think it's because I'm like always on YouTube. So he's like, let me just send my daughter a video. So I found a daughter from, I believe her name is The Kingdom of God Matters, Millie, if you guys know her. And she basically had a video on her quitting story. Everything she said in there was verbatim how I felt and what I was experiencing. It was not a general video. It was so specific to what I was going through at the time. And so I took that as confirmation for me to leave. I didn't want to just leave my company out to dry like that. So I gave them a 1 week notice. 2 weeks, I couldn't do it. So I gave them a 1 week notice to kind of get their ducks in a row before I left. And I ended up leaving. Now, after I left, I initially felt really good. I felt so free. I felt like I could be like myself. There's things I like to do as a mom and as a woman that I just didn't have the time to do before. And I just felt so free. I felt like a huge weight had been lifted off of me. And, I was able to save a little bit of money. I also started to dibble into e-commerce a little bit. And so that was sitting in the money too to actually help me pay rent one time. So it was nice. So initially I felt amazing. I had money. And I think for a solid 5 or 6 months, I was okay. I didn't have the luxury of having the financial freedom I had before, but I had a different type of freedom, which was my time and my energy and my mental health and all of that. And I wasn't missing any meals. I had everything I needed, and sometimes I could have a little something that I wanted, and so I was okay with that. Me and God had our time together. We were kind of just going through the motions and things like that. We were dealing with other things that I needed to deal with, and because I wasn't at work, I had the time and the energy to dedicate to that process. So things were doing well. Things were going pretty well for a good 5 months or so. And then I'd kind of dried up my provision a little bit. The resources I had before, I just didn't have. I wasn't getting the sales I was getting anymore. Doing e-commerce. This was like around Christmas time where I should have been getting a lot of sales, and I wasn't getting that many. I'll get a few here or there. Everything just started to dry up, and I was asking for provision. He was not giving me provision. So this is where my faith got tested, and this will happen with you as well when you quit your job. You may initially feel great at first, just like I did. But then at some point in there, your faith will get tested. Now, that may not be the same thing for you. For me, provision dried up, and that's where my faith really got tested because, God is telling me to trust him, but I'm getting past due bills back to back to back to back to back in the mail. And so it's, like, are you going to trust your Father who has provided for you every day up until now, and even now, right? Even if you can't see it, are you going to trust these bills? You know, and that may be different for you, how your faith get tested, but just your faith will get tested. Take it on the chin, embrace it. It's a part of it. And it's really there to strengthen you in your faith, so that when it happens again, because it's inevitable that it will happen again in your walk, you're able to fight it better. Faith got tested, and I really got to a very, very dark place in the Lord. I've been in a dark place, but this was the first time I was in the Lord and felt so, I don't know. This was just a really dark space that I was in, and I was doing my best to trust him. And at the root, I knew he would come through, but it's the waiting that can be a bit, you know, like, okay, when? Eventually he came through after a breaking happened there, able to kind of get back on my feet, so to speak. Still didn't go, you know, to work or anything like that, but I had some money. And that was the main set of issues at that time, because everything else we had been dealing with, right? So in this, you learn, with the testing of your faith, you learn to really know the deepest parts of your heart that God is a provider. He will provide for you. And he loves you. He's not going to let you just be down bad. But I have to put the disqualifier here. Sometimes he will. There was a time that I went without something, and it was horrible. It was terrible. And that contributed to the dark space that I was in. So in that, I had to learn that even in the darkest points of your life, God is still there. You know, in your peaks, when you're doing well, when you're doing amazing, feeling amazing, God is there. But God will allow you to go to a lowly place so that you learn how to come to him and depend on him and be honest with him about what you're feeling. I wasn't homeless or anything like that. He didn't let it get that dire. But I saw, you know, testimonies from other brothers and sisters who said that they had lost their homes, and it was them and their kids living in their car until God made provision. And when I read that, going through that dark time, I was so afraid, because I'm like, am I seeing this because you're about to let it get that bad? And you know, he let it get bad. Not that bad. I'm not homeless, wasn't homeless, had somewhere to lay my head, always had somewhere to go for refuge. So he always made a way in the, you know, when you think you have no way, right? You know, that's something that you'll learn as well. That's something that I learned. God is a provider. Time that I'm still unemployed. I still don't have a job. In that time, from the day I quit till now, a lot of molding has happened. You go through some stretching, some really intense stretching, and some pruning, and some stretching, and some pruning, and some stretching, and some pruning. And it's super uncomfortable. You'll often find yourself asking God, okay, like, enough is enough. when are we gonna stop this? You know? That's up to him. You just have to go through it, but it makes you better. I am a much better person today because of the stretching and pruning and molding that's been happening for about a year, maybe a little well over a year. All this happened in the midst of just a stretching, pruning, molding year. So it kind of contributed to that, but I'm way better now, and I trust him, and if he tells me back to work, I will, but I just know that that's not, he didn't tell me to leave just to go back. Maybe he will temporarily at some point, I don't know. But I know that he wants me to do something different. And I also want to do something different. And so that's what we're working on, and I've been working on since before I left, honestly. Quitting your job can be so scary. Any big leap of faith is so scary, because when I quit my job, I did not know what was next. He did not tell me, hey, daughter, you know, you're gonna be fine, and we're gonna have this, and I'm gonna make provision at this day and this day and this. He did not tell me that. He just confirmed quit. Move of faith. I'm not gonna tell you anything else so that you can rest in it. I just want you to obey. And so I did. As hard as it was at times, I don't regret it. I've been able to maintain a certain level of peace of mind that felt unattainable before, even with past due balances and things like that coming in the mail. And I'm just excited for what's to come next, because attached to that move of faith was a set of promises from the Lord that the Lord gave me well before I quit. But I knew that me quitting was a part of the process to get there. And so I'm believing God to give me those promises that he promised me, because God is not like man, he should lie. So I'll have everything he told me to have, and I can see the work that we've done together, how that's going to help me attain and maintain and sustain those promises. And so I'm very grateful. I can't believe it's already been a year. Time flies. It feels like it's been a year, but it doesn't feel like it's been a year at the same time. I forgot to mention, in the midst of that, you will have people looking at you crazy. Like, people will be telling you that, hey, you need to go back to work. Are you looking for a job? What are you doing? You know, you're lazy. You're people in that time that I was out of work, and you know, when I was really sensitive about it, I definitely had people saying things and just really picking at me about it. And these weren't really people that I cared, like I didn't care about their opinion much, but it's still a little bit annoying when you're trying to wrap your head around what's going on as well. You know, a lot of times these same people also may help, you know, make provision. God used them to make provision for me. So you just got to take the good with the bad. If you can separate yourself from these people, do that. But in my case, I couldn't. So I had, you know, I had a level of almost like shame about it for a minute. So even though people knew I wasn't working anymore, I did not want to share what was going on with me. Once you get to a certain level in this, you just become like, you humble yourself enough to know that you don't care. People knowing what you're going through, it's like some people should know a level of what you're enduring, so that when the testimony comes, when the blessing comes, when the promise comes, they can see the hand of God. They can see what God did in your life, and that in itself is a testimony for them. And you never know, it could help them get saved if they're unsaved, or if they are saved, it may help them to achieve greater faith just because they saw what God did in your life. So, you know, if God is leading you to share, don't be afraid to share. If not, then don't. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to share. I think I am constantly working on different things, and so I'm grateful to God for it. I'm excited for what's to come next. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Make sure that you guys like, comment, and subscribe and share, and all the good YouTube things. And I will see you in the next Baby Bite. Bye.